depth in your room.
Yeah.
You feel pretty good about that. You bring in a lot of pieces, and it seems like guys can do different things.
Linebacker you're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think when we first got here, I think there was like 4 active guys on the roster when I was going over things, and I was like, you know, we got to add some bodies. And then, you know, that was without some of the young guys coming in like Pretzeloff, and then we went out and got some transfers and some guys that have played football. The cool thing is I think there's a mix of abilities. I think there's some mix of ages. You know, we got a guy who's in his last year, a guy who's got 2 years left, we got a guy with 3 years left, and we got a guy with 4 years left. And that was kind of important to us, that it wasn't like, you know, 3 guys with a year, because then all you're doing is creating your own problems for the next year. So, there's different skill sets. They're all great people. We got some years on them, so it's a good group.
What would you say is the prototypical linebacker you're targeting on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I would say he's long, athletic, and smart. That's what we look for, and that's a sliding scale, okay? And what I mean by that, if a guy's 6 foot and he runs 4.4, that's cool, okay? But if you're going to be a low 4.8, you know, you better be 6'3 and a half, okay? So like those, so my point is it slides, but the ideal thing, if I'm just giving you 3, it's length, it's athleticism, and it's intelligence, not necessarily in that order.
Joe, there's an old term around here, you've probably heard it by now, going back 40 or 50 years, they call themselves Spartan dogs.
Yeah.
Are you starting to identify dogs on that defense?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think the cool thing about coming here more than any other place I've ever worked, you know, I think the alums take a whole lot of pride in having played here. Whether it's guys coming back, whether it's guys coming to practice, you know, we just had the Spartan Dog Con and the golf outing, and just to see all those guys coming back and be around, I think it's pretty cool, honestly. And I think, yeah, as we're going, you know, we're getting a feel for just you know, who the guys are and who the guys are. But I mean, there's you put the pads on, and that kind of starts to establish itself a little bit more. But yeah, I think I really enjoy that part of the program.
As Brian about this, you mentioned about the offensive line being a major piece for the success on that side.
Yeah.
You guys had so much turnover in the interior defense
Yeah.
line. How is that been to navigate, and what do you see from the guys that are out there?
Yeah, obviously, you know, you get turnover. There's a change in the program. You know, people have an opportunity and to make decisions on where they want to go, and we wish people well. The guys we had, great. The guys we needed to add, let's go get them. Let's make sure we're getting the right people who are going to fit us and fit our culture. And I thought we did a good job of that. Again, I think we got some guys we traded out. We brought some guys in with some years. Some of the guys have been last year, but a couple of them have some years. And then we go to work coaching. So, you know, I think having been in the league for a long time, you got to kind of build the thing from the line out. If you're not able to stop the run in the Big Ten, it's going to be a challenge, no matter how athletic you are. So we got to make sure that we have guys that can go in there and do that. So first day in pads, you know, it's been positive the first 3. We'll know more info as we get more days in pads and tackling and all those things. So
Does it put more emphasis for a guy like Maverick, not only been here and played so much in the Big Ten, but was here in the spring here? I think you guys would kind of become that teacher.
yeah, I think so. Like, this is, you know, it's unique football a little bit now. Like, you could coach for a long time, like I have, you know, but like the way the game is now is different, right? You know, I think I don't know, 10, 11 guys who maybe more who weren't here playing spring ball, you know, and then they're coming in and you're going to be counting on them. It's different. And so like the guys who were here, played in the spring, have a little bit more experience in what you're asking to do. Those guys are invaluable. So I think that part's important.
Michigan State's defense for a long time had been like feared or weird by opponents.
Yeah.
But they had kind of lost that identity over the past few seasons. What is it going to take for for the defense to get back to where it was?
Yeah, I think the things we want to see when we put the film on is we want to see guys playing with extreme effort. Like, I think any really, really good defense is going to play really, really hard. I think there's got to be a really big emphasis on toughness because of the ability to control the runs, control the line of scrimmage, stop the run, be physical in your tackling, and then we got to be really, really great with our technique. You know, those defenses, I've had a chance to see them over the years being in the league. I think that's what you would say about them. They played their butt off. They were really, really physical, and they played with good technique, and then they had good players. And so for us to play good defense, that's kind of where it starts. And so we went out and recruited, you know, the guys that we believed were fit for us, and now we're coaching. So it'll be a process of getting better every day. I know, it comes off as coach speak, but I mean, anyone who gets good at anything has to get good at something, get good at it. Like, you got to go through a process to get there. And so we're in that process right now. We all want it to happen as soon as possible, and that's what we're working towards.
With the proliferation over the years of offense and how they've changed, and pass-happy offenses, is it, shutdown defenses are way fewer and far between these days. I mean, you can give up 300 yards and still be a pretty decent defense.
Yeah, I mean, the yardage has changed. You know, if you were just running the ball in I crow formations, the yardage isn't going to be as high as maybe when you spread it out and you're throwing it more. That's just the nature of the game. So I think you have to look at it through the lens of now. You know, like, you look at, if you go look at the Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the NFL and look at their stats from the ones in the 50s and 60s and compare them to the mediocre quarterbacks now, the mediocre quarterbacks have better stats.
Right.
Well, it's all about the era that you're playing in. So yes, I agree, it's changed, but obviously how you value success has to change too.
You returned 4 starters, regular starters in the secondary, but obviously added a bunch of guys from the portal. I was wondering how you see that fit, especially with the newcomers who arrived this summer, that those guys come together, and who's maybe leading in a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and when I say this, I'm being completely honest, we're in the process of evaluating people. Like, there were guys that were starters here last year, and that's great, but this is a new program, this is new coaches, this is a new culture. We've brought in new players, and obviously there's new coaching techniques. So, I respect everything that the guys that started last year were able to do, obviously, but they're being evaluated on now in comparison with the other players on the team. So we're so early with that right now that we're still kind of figuring out that, and we'll work different rotations. We'll have guys that are in the 1s and the next day in with the 3s, and we're just going to evaluate. And then as we get towards the end of camp, we'll have a better feel for that.
Spencer, he was starting safety last year. I think he was working nickel this spring.
He's playing multiple spots, so he's taking reps this spring at multiple spots. So again, we're looking for the best combination of guys out there.
This may be a tricky question, but I mean, do you feel like you have the personnel to run the defense the way you see fit?
I always look at it as that we run the defense based on the personnel we have, so that wasn't so tricky. So.
Jalen Thompson was a rush in the spring. We saw him, at least the other day, was with the strong guys. Is that?
Yeah,
where you see him fit in
again,
there?
same thing with Malik. Like, when you get in and you're coaching guys for the first time, what you're trying to do is you're trying to evaluate where they're best at based on their skill set. And so guys are doing multiple things, and we'll get a picture of, hey, what's this guy best at? And wherever the guy's best, that's where we want to play.
Going back to that question, I mean, based on your track record and your history, do you feel like you'll have to make any kind of compromises to adjust to the personnel that you have?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a compromise.
Okay.
I would say that, as we evaluate what we're good and not good at, if we're better playing man, then we'll play more man. If we're better at zone, we'll play more zone. If we're better at blitzing, we'll blitz more. If we're not as good and we're as better at playing base, we'll play base. So to me, that's what it's all about in terms of the evaluation of your people. We don't have just a set scheme. We have the scheme that fits our guys the best. Now, it's within the structure, certainly, but we got to call it based on what we think is best for the guys. So,
what do you want to see from the player you're going to end up designating one of, if not the Mike linebackers in this defense?
I think the Mike linebackers, there's got to be a portion of it's leadership, but from a physical standpoint, you got to have guys that are comfortable, in space, and you wouldn't think that I would say that to start with the Mike, but the Mike ends up out of the box all the time in 3-by-1 formations, and so the guy's got to be physical, and he's got to be able to stop and run, and all those things. I got it, okay. And if you're getting recruited as a Mike, you got to have that skill set, but you got to be comfortable in coverage. Doesn't mean you're playing man to man on people all the time, but it just means you got to be able to go out there and play in space and function. So I think that's something that's going to be big for us in terms of that position.
And now you're going to be on a microphone and a helmet. That's going to be new.
Yeah, it is. I mean, It's good. Obviously, there's a learning curve. Coaches, there's a learning curve with players. We've talked to a bunch of NFL guys. I've talked to former linebackers of mine who wear the headset in their helmet. So it's kind of a work in progress. You talk to other college coaches, hey, how are you gonna handle this? So I think until you actually do it, it'll be a little bit of a work in progress. I think at the end of the day, it's a benefit for the defense, but I also think that it's probably more of a benefit in the NFL, to be quite frank with you, because in the NFL, most of the teams still huddle, and it creates a little bit of a different situation there than maybe in college, when no one huddles and they're going fast.
So you won't have as much time maybe to give as much communication.
Yeah, and and it's just being able to get it all out to everybody, so that's what we're in the process of evaluating here.
You mentioned that you stopped the run from inside out. Daquan Dawson's a guy that looked like he made some progress in the spring. I think he's added 15 or 20 pounds according to what the roster that we had was handed out this week. I imagine that was probably something that you spoke about with him, or he already had maybe recognized that, or maybe I'm wrong about that. But is he a guy who's made some progress and now added some mass?
Yeah, well, he's added, and he's made progress. He's added some strength. I think the biggest thing with him coming out of one scheme and then kind of getting into another scheme, there's that ability to kind of get a feel for what it needs to look like. I think Coach Mack and our strength staff and our nutritionists do a really good job of evaluating guys based on their body comp and then what can they play at. All those conversations kind of get had between those people, and then they kind of give them a number, and then they kind of work towards it. So he's worked hard in the weight room. He's had a good summer, and he feel like added some good mass. So
I know it's early, but are there any guys in your room who have surprised you with their vocalness? Maybe non-veteran type guy?
No, I mean, no one stood out. I think they've all done a really good job, to be honest with you. Those older guys who kind of went through it the whole spring, went through the winter, went through the spring, went through the summer. I think they've been really vocal. So the guys that you kind of bring in and come in the summer, they're a little behind. That's just the nature of it. So
How are you guys navigating the staff, that line of teaching the concept for all these new guys that you brought in versus the flood that comes with install going into the first game?
yeah, we just talk about it a lot, and there's a little bit of like, here's the plan, and then if we need to change the plan, we'll change the plan. I think how are you feeling in your room? How are you feeling with the install? How are you feeling with what you're hearing from the players? If you're feeling good, you maybe press on. If you're feeling not so good, maybe you pull back a little bit.
A lot of the defense is obviously about confidence. I mean, where did you get the sense the confidence level was amongst the defensive players, I guess, when you first arrived here, based on all that happened in the last few years?
Yeah, I think there was good confidence. I think confidence is the result of preparing. I think confidence is the result of going out and having success. And you do that through the winter, and then you do that in the spring and through. So I think there was a group that felt good about what they could do, and they felt that, hey, here's a fresh start, and they felt, hey, let's go to work. And now we're in the process of that positive action of you got to go out and have success in practice. That kind of breeds the confidence.
Is Wayne a guy in your room that provides some versatility and can sort of shift, almost make you guys like nickel without, to give you a little bit of that?
Yeah, here's what I say. I think Wayne is a really good player. Wayne had a really good day today. Wayne, I think, does a nice job in coverage. So I think that he is one of those more modern day linebackers where you feel like he's able to go and work in space and not be out of place. So he gives you some flexibility there for sure.
When it comes to the helmet,
get to the meeting, so maybe one more.
when it comes to the helmet communication, will that decision be player or position based, and who gets the helmet?
It's going to be who's more in the middle of the defense. So that's going to be linebackers and safeties. And I'm just telling you, we're rotating that through, and then we'll ultimately make a decision on who it's going to be a little bit later. I'm still feeling it out. It's my third day doing it. We did it in the spring a little bit, but now it's really, you got the exact equipment that you're going to be using in the spring. It was a little bit of, make it work because you found out right before spring ball. Okay, now it's hey, we got the equipment that we're going to be using, so we're kind of feeling it out.